This time, Yerushalmi Pesachim in the article Oz V'Har edition. We're on Daf Mem Amarav, the third line from the top. L'ochel v'kazesim shel ochel v'kazesim, which in the Vilna is mamash on top of Lamed Hey Amarav. As I mentioned at the end of yesterday's shir, first I thought this was a continuation of the previous sugya. It is, but not a continuation of the divisions between Lishma and Shel Lishma, L'ochel v'shel ochel that we finished with Rabbi Avin yesterday. Now Gemara goes on to Claire to present additional questions about lochlev shlo lochlev. So lochlev k'seisim shlo lochlev k'seisim kosher. The classic case, which we assume to be okay because it said lochlev shlo lochlev is kosher, we had in mind for the ochlim to eat k'seisim and the shlo ochlim should also eat k'seisim. And lochlev k'seisim shlo lochlev k'chatzi k'seisim. We had in mind that the ochlim should eat a k'seisim and the shlo ochlim should only eat a half k'seisim. So here it says Vikol Shkein, the Korbaneh, and others, I'm sure take out the Vav. Kol Shkein kosher, it's certainly kosher. But what about L'ochel Chatzi Zaysim and L'ochel Chatzi Zaysim? I had in mind for each of them only half Zaysim. Now, half Zaysim doesn't have a Chalei Shem Achila to it, right? But you had in mind for both the Kshem and the Ochlim and the Psulim, the Ochlim that each have Chatzi Zaysim. So the Chaim, in the name of the Nir, also so the article changed the gears to the next line. You don't have to change the gears, so it's a little bit less cumbersome though. If you do and switch the kosher, leave soul around as they suggest. Mana kayamim. So I'm going to read without change. Mana kayamim. Im sheisa machshava lipsol. If you're going to say that this is a machshava that apostles, then te machshava lekosher. It should be a machshava to kosher as well, right? In other words, if you're going to say since ochlev shlo ochlev is okay, so Mishnah said. So then, even this machshava to pasel, a machshava of chatzi zeisim, so it should be it shows a kosher, because whatever you have, it's the same for the ochlev and ochlev. Im ein machshava so, and if it's not a machshava to pasel, right? So then, don't take machshava to kosher. It shouldn't be a machshava to kosher either. So then, so how do we look at it? Do we say it's not a machshava, it's a machshava to pasel, but then it also makes it kosher? Or do we say, no, it's not a machshava to pasel, but then it won't make it kosher either, because nobody's eating, because it's kechatzi zaysim for everybody. Okay, so what is it? That's the Gemara's question. The following Mishnah, which is a very radical connection, as we shall see momentarily, indicates that it's a machshava kosher. How so? What Mishnah? The thing time we learned in terms of pickle. Lochel kechatzi zayis. If you had in mind to eat chatzi zayis, chutz zman chutz k'ymo. Ulahakir chatzi zayis, limakir chatzi zayis, chutz zman chutz k'ymo. It's kosher. So shein achil v'aktor mitztarfin. Because achil and aktor don't join together. So we a great riot for here. So obviously it's a very difficult riot to understand. Mechamayim asks the obvious question. There's no comparison. There, the machshava for a chatzi zayis, the fact that it's only a chatzi zayis, undermines any psul, because the psul has to be for a chalei shem achila for a kazayis. But here we need a machshava to kosher. We need to have a machshava that's going to make it kosher and make it a shem achila. So how do we know here that it's going to make it a ma'is achila? Where is the indication for the fact that it doesn't passel that it should be machshir? It doesn't passel because less than half is ice, but for the same reason it shouldn't be machshir. So the Mechamai wants to change the gears up. It could be we can just get along here with the second Shana Korban Eda. Second Shana Korban says Lishna Achina Achil Baktar De Mitztarfin. Achil and Aktar don't join together. Lecho v'lecho. But to Achil and Achila, do me the Lecho Lahaktir, which is in a similar context, Lecho Lahaktir will be Mitztarif. Hechidami, what's the case? B'shnei b'yam Mitztarfin, the two people are Mitztarif. In other words, if you had theoretically one person thinking pico for half a size, another person thinking pico for another half a size, maybe it's mitzdarif. Maybe only achil aktor not mitzdarif, but two achilas of two people maybe are mitzdarif. And you're talking now maybe although one of them is no one of them is going to either do a ma'aseh, but maybe just like over there it's achil aktor, it's not mitzdarif, but it could be achil are mitzdarif. And here too the achila of two people can together comprise enough of a chilul Koran Pesach. It's a very big chiddush, but that's evidently the connection which we're making. I see now that also the article goes with this second parish Koran Eda, Chaim suggests a different answer, but interpretation. But let's go with that. Now we go back to a question which we discussed yesterday. And yesterday we said apostle. It's kosher. But the simple gears of the Gemara is shachto shetiskaper chatzi chabrosu. You shechted in order that half the chabur should be miskaper. In other words, again, diskaper we're saying here is the same thing as achila. Actually, back previously when we had it yesterday, with the Lashon of Gemara was actually shachto shetochim min chatzi chabrosu apostle. So there it said Lashon of achila. Here it's Lashon about aktora, but we're assuming that it's kapara. We're assuming, like we assumed yesterday in the subsequent part of the Gemara, that here also kapara means achila. Okay, so the shachto should kapara chatzi chaburaso. You shechted that only half the chabura should eat. Okay, like they say shachto pesach chatzi chaburaso muyimbo, and should diskaper should klomar sheyulotzi bo mishum pesach. The shul goes to pesach. Bashlush means achila, but even if you don't learn achila, then just try to half of the menuim, whatever it means. Actually, when I take a look at the article. Yeah, so I have to go to Korban Eidah that should describe that there should be yoytze the choyva chatzi chaburaso. So I guess it's it's not necessarily about eating. So about you had in mind that only half of the people should be yoytze with this Korban Pesach. So it could mean eat. It's not that it mean eat. It could mean kibshuta, that they should be miskaper. Because before we were talking mamish about eating, shachto lo'ochlav and iskaper lo'ochlav. That was what we had yesterday. But here it could be talking about the kapar itself. Okay, so let's go with that. So. So the Korban explains there's a kind of it's amigo here. Since the Chatzi Chabura, which he had a kavan on, is contingent on the Chatzi Chabura, which he wasn't a kavan on, because they're also menuim on this Pesach. The Came Shechatzi Shlokim Eloni Skapu, since they were not able to be mechaper the korban. Af Elu Shkim Elem in Yotzibel. So the people he had in mind, they're also not yotzi with it. Rabbi Yosef made kosher. Yosef said it's kosher. That was his madur. That was the first time he learned. Machzor Tinyana, the second time he learned Chaz Rabbi Yossi. He changed his mind and he said it's possible. You know, I think it's very similar to the sort of Kniyat v'Chamor and Bava Basra, the end of Bava Basra. There we have a machlokas. If you say, I want you to acquire half, and the Chamor should acquire half. So they say that it's a koiner or not koiner. There's machlokas there. So the Chamor is definitely not koiner. There's no kinyan. So they say there's a migo from the Chamor to the person, and just like Chamor is not koiner, the person's not koiner. Or they say no, the Chamor has no kinyan, so therefore it's command leisadami. And so it's like amigo to a head there is amigo to a head or something which is not pateras, this issue altogether. Is that like doing it to a psul puzzle? So therefore there's an opinion that you are koiner. So here too, initially, Rabbi Yosef held, well, the people who are the Yudin Shachbar, the command leisadami. And they're like the opinion that Kniyat Chamor is koiner because we don't take it into account. It's Chamor, it shouldn't be taken into account. It's not B'Teras Kinyan. And then, but you came along to Rabbi Yosef and said, no, this is different. Because even Kniyat Chamor works, because here, the other people are B'Teras, this korban. Because they're menuyim on it. And they're correct to participate in it. So if they're monoi, and you deliberately leave them out, so therefore, the migo is, since this, like, they're not Yotzei because you left them out and it was supposed to be for them, so to the people you did have in mind, you're not Yotzei either. That's evidently the way the sugya is working. Yeah, that sugya is about Basa Daf Kuf Mem Gimel, and there's the Rabbi Yosef angle. My same about Basa, the Big Day Sheish, I have a simmer on it. And then the Rabbi Yosef angle in the Tzinim Latera, Simon Klau Aleph talks about this idea of, if you mean to say migo just to a shlila or also to a head there. So again, seems like Initially, Rabbi Yossi who thought those command Lesidami. You don't say Migo Lahad there. And then he said, no, they're nishlolim. They're being deprived of their schus in the korban. So it's a Migo Shlila. And even though Migo Lahad there, you might not say, but, so therefore, Kriyal Chamor would be Kana. But and the question of Gemara and Barambasa about a Kana Akol, Kana Mechza, but Migo Lishlila or Minon. And therefore, since you're a Shiloh, those other B'nai, other members of Chabura, you're also Shiloh, the members of the Chabura you had in mind. I think it's a nice tushto. I'm like, Pinchas ben Rebbe, Loche Elfin Rebbe kosher. Didn't you teach us initially that it's kosher? Right? Kashro. It's the, which I guess it should say kosher. The vav is superfluous. Amalei said, Hakvir Gabacham Asmera. Is this embedded by nails? Yeah, I said it, but I reneged. I changed my mind. Okay, now we go on to the next part of the Mishnah. Shachta Kodim in the Vilna it says Pesach, but every only person changed the Chatzos. I bet you in the Oz V'Hodar it has a Pesach in parentheses and the Chatzos in brackets. Okay, so Shachta Kodim Chatzos possible. Lacha Chatzos, but after Chatzos miyad kosher. It's mini kosher. Even Kodim Tamid Shel Shachar. Tamid Shachar. Calling the Tamid. Tamid Shemer Pine. That's Tamid Shel Shachar. I misread that kosher like Shachar. Even calling the Tamid kosher. But Tanikain. And we also learned in the Brisa. Yochim Kodim Pesach Tamid. What happens if you shove the Pesach for the Tamid? Perhaps you'd say Lo Yuchar Tamid. Meaning the Kodim Lo Yikrav Tamid by Yomahu. Right? That you shouldn't be marking the Tamid because it's a sacrifice of Pesach and you negated the Tamid. Tamalomer Taseh Riba. It says Taseh, which is Riba. It says the Carbonator. It's Kavashi Taseh, the Kroya Seruhu. Superfluous, right? El Rabos. Loam Taseh Hatomid. Shows me Tomid. I feel the show Pesach Kodim, right? So, could just said that's Kevas Hasheni, right? So Taseh Bokavesa Kevas Hasheni. What does Taseh mean? So Taseh means even if you brought the Pesach first, which you're supposed to bring after the Tamid, so I might say that the Tamid's closed off. No, you still make the Tamid afterwards. Rabbi Avin said, "Masnisa Amra." From the Mishnah itself, it says Pesach Atzmo kosher. You hold that the Pesach itself is kosher. So the Moshe explains here. Masnisa Guve Shamina Behedya. Dav HaTamid Shemakib Acharav kosherhu. It's that even the tummy you sacrifice after the korban base is kosher. The hadiktani pesach atzma kosher. After you look down at the dumb, it's not the Mishnah. It's no, it is the from the Brisa. From the Brisa we just quoted. Well, it's from the inference of the Mishnah. The Mishnah shachar kodim chatzos is possible, with the inference being immediately after. After chatzos it's kosher. So that Mishnah says inference is that the what we just learned. Doktani again. I'm going further to Moshe. Pesach is no kosher. I feel like the tamid. The inference of Mishnah was that Pesach is kosher even if it comes before the tamid. You turn about pasul atamish achrav. So when I say tamid afterwards is pasul. Can kamosha lo kadmo Pesach l'tamidu. So it's as if the Pesach didn't come before the tamid. Sharei enkan tamid, and there's no tamid. So what's the chiddush? Shita shapesach kosher. Obviously, Pesach is kosher. Elavated af tamid shel achrov kosher. So let's see, even the tamid after korban Pesach is kosher. I'm not sure I made that clear by reading inside Pnei Moshe. So let me say it outside. It says the Mishnah itself indicates tamid is kosher because it's telling us that the Pesach immediately after chatzos is kosher, even if it's for a tamid. If the tamid not afterwards not kosher, it's not before the tamid. There was no tamid. So the fact that it says that it's the Pesach before the tamid is kosher indicates that the tamid afterwards is kosher, and the Pesach comes before is kosher by the fact that it's preceded a tamid. Suppose if the tamid was possible, then there's no Pesach preceding the tamid. There is just no tamid at all. That's what it says. I'm Rabbi Avin. That's Yisrael Pesach has no kosher because he came up possible. Going to say the tamid is possible. Then can we slow kadmo? It's as if it didn't precede a tamid because there's no tamid fit to precede. Okay, the next one we're going to go. The Korban gives two parishes. We're going to go to the second parish, which he himself says is ikar. Tamanat Omar. There you said dam tummy ve'vov kohen Pesach. So you said that the dam tummy and the evorim are before the Pesach. Well, Pesach Torah Pesach comes before the Torah standards. The kol marachim, but here it just says you have to keep the blood, right? Not that the Pesach till afterwards. There's nothing about the Pesach. After you sprinkle the blood of the tummy. Not about the evorim, the tummy coming first. Let's see inside the Korban Eder. Elamim, they've already tummy coming Pesach. They've already tummy before. You have to, at least, keep mixing the dam of the Pesach until there's rikas dam atomid. Don't say anything about being marked the evorim of the tummy for Pesach. He says Pesach near Ikar. So Amrei B'lo said, "Kam b'chai, kam b'chosh shachot." He says, "Kam b'chai, kos man Pesach omer chai, machim tchei for tummy." As the Pesach is alive, so then you bring first the evorim tummy. Kam b'shosh k'var nishcha Pesach, ein mamtinim es rikas dama, rak arachar rikas dama tummy. You only wait for since the Pesach is already shechted, so therefore you're not going to wait to do the rikas adam of the Pesach until after the evorim tummy. You just wait to the Zrikas Adam of the Pesach until after the Zrikas Adam of the tummy. You don't wait that long. Even until after the Evorim of the tummy are done. Okay, halacha Dalet. Havshali the Pesach chometz. Somebody shechts the Korban Pesach on chometz when he possesses chometz. Over below say he violates lo saseh lo tishlai chometz dam zivchi. Rabbi Yomer Afa Tamid. He says even a Tamid ben Rabbi Mer Pesach. If you shech on the chometz, you're over on that. I was going to explain. Shomer Ava Pesach Rabbos Bar Lishmo Chayav. So Shimon says that if you shech the Pesach without Lishmo, so it's about Korban Pesach, then you're Chayav because lo tishlat chometz dam zivchi, because it's a kosher Pesach. But if you shech the Shelo Lishmo, which is a Shchita Shein Ruya, then you're potter. You're exempt because it's possible. It's Shchita Shein Ruya according to Lav Shei Shmita. Lav Shmei Shchita. V'shar kol zvachim. And all other karbanos that you shech the Yudal after Chatzos on chometz, whether the ben lishman and shlo lishman, potter, you're exempt. Even though the kosher karbanos, there's no problem shech them on the Pesach erev Pesach after Chatzos. But that's on erev Pesach. Uvumoed. But if it's on Yotzef, im lishmo, you shechted the Pesach lishmo on Pesach, right? You're potter because it's not a valid Korban Pesach. She's shenuya. Shlo lishmo, which is valid, we shechted for a purpose of Ola Shlom, as we talked about previously, which may be valid Korban, then you're chayev. Because the Isra of Lo Tishal Chaletz Lam Zivchi applies to Pesach itself. V'shar kol azvachim, but here we have a difference. Shar kol azvachim, ben lishmo ben shelo lishmon, chayev. The other korbanos you shech them on chometz, whether they're lishma or not lishma, since they're kosher, you're chayiv. So even though erev Pesach achar chatzos, you only chayiv Korban Pesach. During Yontif, Rabbi Shimon says you're chayiv on all of them, except chutzin achat sheshachta shlo lishma, seven chayv shlo lishma, because since the chayv shlo lishma is possible, so therefore there's no you're not over the lav in that case. So we see according to Rabbi Shimon, the Isra to not shecht on chometz, on erev Pesach applies only Korban Pesach, and only if it's a Korban kosher, obviously. And on the Pesach itself, it's the Isra applies to all the korbanos as long as they're kosher, which therefore excludes the chatos. And the Gemara is going to explain why the difference between erev Pesach and Pesach itself. Okay, says Gemara. Minayin shoy Pesach chometz over below taseh. I know we shech the Korban Pesach possessing chometz over below taseh. Tamalor below tishchal chometz dam zivchi. That you can't shech on the chometz the blood of my korban. Any other shechet says the only person who shechts the korban. Hazark minayin the also the person who sprinkles the blood. Tamalor tishchal al chometz dam. So you shouldn't shecht on chometz dam, right? Lo tishchal chometz dam zivchi. So they're saying lo tishchal chometz dam. So the dam aspect of the korban also should not be done on chometz. The dam aspect is of course the zrika. Okay, so now, Omar Bashur Bayitzav, important chap. Mimash Mischayv Azrika. If you can become Chayv and Azrika, al Chometz, after you're Shechet al Chometz, it must be Hadamar Pesach Atzmo Kosher, despite the fact that you're over the lav, meaning Shechet al Chometz, doesn't pass the korban. Otherwise, you're going to get this Zrika and be Chayev because the korban already became possible being Nishchat al Chometz. So the Shechita al Chometz doesn't pass the korban. You over the lav, but the korban is still kosher. Says Rabbi Yosef, not necessarily. Rabbi Yosef, Tipata, it's not proof. Tipata could be there about she's smell chometz and shchita zrika. He won a chometz lottery. He got chometz between the zrika and between the shchita zrika. So time the shchita he didn't have chometz. Time the zrika he got chometz. Okay, so therefore that's why it was kosher, even though shechted, not because even though he shechted chometz, not he didn't shech the chometz. It's kosher because he didn't shech the chometz. Or zorik. Or the person who shechted didn't have any chametz, and the person who does the zrika, he's the one who had the chametz. The Gemara says no, but it is kosher. Tani Chana Achizke said, "Lo tishchal chametz dam zivchi." Don't share the chametz, the blood of my korban, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu. HaTorah calls it zivchi. So it calls it my zevach. So even though you shech the chametz, it's still called my zevach, meaning my korban, Kodesh Baruch Hu's korban. Indication is that it's kosher. So you're the person who shechted serves a lot, but the korban is still dam zivchi. It's still a legitimate kosher korban. It's interesting. My cousin in the Sefer Offer Yerushalmi, he brings down that the Tes and Tmur brings down the svara, but in Pesachim Daf Samagim Amrav brings down the name of the Rivah. The reason it's kosher not because Yerushalmi is using dam zivchi, but because lo shon alav akosav la'akev. It's never written as something which is likuva. Which is not like the Yerushalmi. And he has the question, actually, seems that it's based on the Pesachim itself. Actually, my cousin took the trouble to look at the Pesachim. It does look like it's this lav is reiterated, so therefore, why don't we say Shana Kosav Lakiv? So when it says, Omrai Mari Lui Tinisa Chizkiv, never the Chizkiv saying it's kosher, you know, Matzina Dover Pasuk, Chaylev Chatos. We have something which is possible, you Chayev Chatos on it. And it's possible that this is similar. What's the case with Apostle and Chayev Chatos? Shchutei Chutz. Yeshech, this is from the Nir and the Yerushalmi. So the Shchutei Chutz, you Chayev on the Shchita outside Beis HaMikdash, even though the Shchita is possible, because it's Kachim Bachutz. So it's a not valid Shchita. And nevertheless, you're Chayev. Okay, so we see that so you're Chayev and suddenly, even though it's possible. So I could say the same thing, even though the Zrika is possible, you still be chayav on it for having gone through the motions, so to speak. But now Chizkiah said, "Dam zivchi." Okay, we have a George say it's kosher. But the question of the statement of Yeshua B'Yitzchak that Mashu Mischayev al Zrika Dam Pesach is kosher, that's not necessarily true, because you see from Shchutei Chutz that something you possible and you're still chayav on a chatos. Okay, that brings us mamish to the bottom of Mem Omid Beis in the article Ozvar edition. And I think the next thing is a new sugya, so therefore we'll stop here. I hope it's a new sugya. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll stop here today.